Hi, and thank you for joining us. I'm CJ Rosenstein, and welcome to Courier TV News Election Coverage 2023. Scott Worley has won his contest against Benny White to become the next mayor of Naperville. Joining me now to discuss the results is Bill Enright, Adjunct Professor of Political Science Department. What are your thoughts on the race, Bill?
Well, it was kind of interesting because certainly Worley won, but as it turns out, there was actually three people in the race with Tiffany Stevens also in there. And she got about 4% of the vote, and it looked like last time I saw that Worley maybe won by 5, maybe 4.5%. So it would have been even closer possibly if Johnson had gotten those other votes. And so it is like sort of interesting how it all played out. But you know, that's the way it goes too.
Where do you think Naperville is going to go from here?
Yeah, you know, I think that it's going to be pretty much business as usual because Worley's like a longtime resident, the family's well known there, and I think that they're going to probably continue along the same lines that they've been doing all along here. So I don't think there's going to be very much change as far as Naperville goes.
We expected, according to polling, that Paul Vallas was going to win the mayor of Chicago race. And we in fact have a different mayor, and that is Brandon Johnson. Bill, what do you think about the race that went down in Chicago today?
Yeah, I think the polls are showing that Vallas was probably going to win it, but again, you never know with the polls. One interesting thing that's still going on with that race is that there was 91,000 absentee ballots requested. Usually you get about half of those back, which at this point, Johnson's up by about 16,000. So if you were to win by, you know, the 16,000, but without those ballots being counted, but I know that Vallas did concede, so at this point it's probably not going to matter. But as far as that goes, I probably would have waited and just seen, maybe it's all Paul Vallas's neighbors and cousins and friends, and so, you know, you never know. So I would have just waited and see how that played out.
And there were two pretty different candidates, so with Brandon Johnson winning, where does Chicago go now?
Yeah, well, it sounds like he certainly wanted to put some things in place like an income tax, a corporate income tax, a personal income tax. And so if that goes into place, then certainly it's going to bring in more revenue. But what's that going to do as far as businesses go there? Are businesses going to move out because they don't want to have to pay that income tax? So that's the part that's going to sort of be the real key to what happens from here.
Seems like the Chicago mayor election is going to kind of spread its way out through the Chicagoland as well with the results.
Yeah,
with
well,
Brandon
I
Johnson.
suppose if you live in Naperville and you take the train into the city and you have to pay an income tax because you work in the city, people may want to, you know, change what they do, where companies might decide to move out into the suburbs.
Mm-hmm. And finally, we have the COD Board of Trustees, and Christina Fenney has won her re-election, and the other seat is still in question. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, not surprising, Christine Fenney being the incumbent that she won, and then the other ones, you know, we'll just have to see how it plays out. Last time I looked, it looked like it was pretty close still, but I'm sure that it'll be figured out by the end of the night.
All right. All right, before I let you go, Bill, is there anything you'd like to add about your observations from the races tonight?
Well, I think earlier we did talk about that referendum in Roselle and whether or not that library building was going to be built. And at this point, it was losing by about 100 votes. I couldn't tell what the percentage of vote that was in, but it was losing. So maybe they won't be getting a new library in Roselle. And there really wasn't that many referendums on there. And I couldn't find any real data yet on what was going on with that Orland Park referendum, whether or not to replace the city manager. So still trying to get some information on that.
And will any of the races from this evening have impact on the state and national levels?
Yeah, again, if there's like a city income tax in Chicago, that's probably going to be reverberating throughout Illinois. And you know, for state of Illinois, you already pay 5% basically in income tax. If you're adding some more to it, are people going to decide to move out? And if they move out, where are they going to go? You know, somewhere where there's no income tax like Texas, or what are they going to do as far as those issues that they would face? So I would think it's going to have some sort of lasting impact.
Mm-hmm. with the tax incentive to maybe possibly leave Illinois, there could be some people going to Florida as well. I know that's a big place for people
Yeah,
to go
for
down
sure,
to.
yep. And as a matter of fact, we've already seen that happen. There was a hedge fund manager, Griffin, who moved out of Chicago and moved his company out of Chicago because basically he was upset about some of the taxes that were here. And so, like that, as I recall, took about $50 million of tax revenue out of the state. So, you know, there's certainly things that can happen that are going to impact, you know, the budget and impact which people stay in the state.
And let's talk about Trump's press conference tonight. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it sounded like some of the things that came out of the original hearings was that the judge had said, don't go on TV and talk about this trial. And sure enough, a few hours later, he went on TV and talked about the trial. And not only talked about the district attorney, but also talked about the judge. And so one thing that could happen is the judge could hold him in contempt of court. And if he holds him in contempt, he could put him in jail. And so, you know, imagine ex-president being put in jail for contempt of court. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that he would do something like that, but I suppose that could happen. Then one other thing that I was thinking about was, you know, whoever read him his Miranda rights, and in there they say you have the right to remain silent. He must have said, stop, stop, stop. I'm not going to use that right. I'm going to continue to speak. And so that was, you know, certainly bold of him to go right on TV and start talking about it immediately.
It looks like there could be some implications as to whether or not he'll be able to run in 2024 or not, based upon what he said tonight.
Yeah, well, you know, the big part is he going to be convicted of a felony? And so if he's convicted of a felony, then most states he wouldn't be able to run. But at this point, we have no idea, and it's a long way to get to a trial, and then that trial would be dragged out also. So who knows if it would even be done in time for the primaries. But the primaries really don't end until June of 2024, so certainly that's still over a year.
Yeah, we still got a lot of time. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for joining us tonight. Love having you here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to let you know that we've got one other thing coming up, which is next year we're going to be following the elections, and we're going to have a live election course. And in it, we're going to go to the Iowa caucuses, and we're also going to go to one of the conventions. And it's not only available for COD students, but it's available for the community at large. So anybody who lives in the COD district is welcome to come and join in this live event coverage class.
That sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like it could be a great opportunity for a lot of students.
It sure will.
All right, thank you so much, Bill. This has been your election update. Thank you for choosing Courier TV News for your election coverage this evening. We leave you now with a segment we call Chap Chat. We ask students why they did or why they didn't vote this election, and who they thought the next mayor of Chicago would be.
No, I did not.
And why?
I did not know that the election was happening.
Who do you think will become the red mayor of Chicago?
Paul Vallis.
Thank you. So the first question, did you vote and why?
No, I didn't vote because I just chose not to vote.
And the second question, who do you think will become the red mayor of Chicago?
Paul Vallis.
Thank you very much. Did you vote and why?
No, I didn't vote. It's not really my thing.
Who do you think will become the red mayor of Chicago?
Paul Vallis.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.